All right, good morning. All this meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you, sir. No cases to reconsider on agenda item 3. Is that correct? All right. On agenda item 4, these are, of course, your tax liability cases. We have no cases on docket 24, but I think there's one case on docket 25.
Good morning. For the record, Hugh Daniel, Special Program Appeals. That is correct, Chairman Daniel. There are no tax liability cases in docket 24 and one tax liability case in docket 25. The case number on docket 25 is TD-24-053-1124. Commissioner Esparza.
I agree with the recommendation.
Commissioner Trevino.
I agree with staff's recommendation.
Chairman Daniel.
Agree with staff recommendation.
Thank you. That concludes the tax liability cases for these dockets.
Thank you. No fair housing cases on agenda item 5, no child labor cases under agenda item 6. Under agenda item 7, we have no wage claim cases on dockets 24 or 25 that are pulled for additional discussion.
That is correct. No cases pulled for additional discussion, but you should have received the wage claim short form dissent lists for docket 24 and 25.
I'll move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on dockets 24 and 25.
I second the motion except for those cases which I am dissenting, as reflected on wage claim short form dissent list for docket 24 and 25.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the case on which I'm dissenting is reflected in wage claim short form dissent lists for dockets 24 and 25.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Let's move then to agenda item 8, consideration of unemployment insurance cases. Please proceed when you're ready.
Beginning with docket 24.
Case number 3624525, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision is fully supportable. The claimant's TN visa was conditioned on maintaining eligible employment. Although the claimant maintained that he was available for work during the entire benefit period, his argument is suspect. Claimant's TN visa expired at the time of his separation from his prior employer. Therefore, after the claimant was unable to reinstate his TN visa until he was able to produce new work with an eligible employer. Documents submitted by the claimant specify that he procured new work beginning May 1st of 2023. And as such, during the interim period between jobs where he did not hold a valid TN visa, he was unavailable for work. So we should affirm the AT decision, availability not eligible from February 12th, 2023 through April 29th, 2023, overpayment.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant, a Canadian citizen, previously worked on a TN visa until his job ended, which caused his visa to expire. The claimant was legally allowed to remain in the country and look for work. And when he obtained a new job, he was issued a new TN visa. As the claimant was eligible to seek and accept work, as evidenced by the issuance of a new TN visa, after he was offered a new job, the claimant was available for work. Reverse the AT, claimant is available for work, no overpayment.
Rehear to obtain an OGC memo on whether the claimant was legally authorized to work in the United States for the full period in which he collected benefits.
We have not yet achieved a majority vote.
I'll agree with the chair.
Yes, sir. We will rehear the case and get an OGC memo.
Case number 3683538, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision should be affirmed. I agree the claimant filed a valid claim. As to the job separation, the claimant initiated the job separation by essentially making herself unavailable for the work she was hired to perform pursuant to the conditions associated therewith. While I empathize with the claimant, she was aware of the employer's condition regarding her work from home agreement, but could no longer meet that condition due to personal reasons. The employer never assumed the obligation to provide living arrangements for the claimant, and accordingly, the claimant bears that responsibility. As such, the claimant's inability to make herself available for work pursuant to the employer's conditions constituted voluntary quit without good cause connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, valid claim, voluntary leaving.
The AT decision is not fully supportable. I do agree that the claimant filed a valid claim. Regarding the job separation, the employer discharged the claimant after she was unable to meet the job requirement for a remote position due to circumstances beyond her control. However, the claimant provided credible firsthand testimony that she made reasonable efforts to keep her job and her employer was unable to accommodate her request to work at a different location. Since the employer initiated the job separation and failed to present any evidence that the claimant was remanded or had received any prior warnings about her job performance, the claimant was separated for reasons other than misconduct. Modify the AT, valid claim, no misconduct.
Valid claim, no misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3692414, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision should be modified. The claimant quit her job after she was physically assaulted by her supervisor, who grabbed her neck when telling her to go on a break. When the claimant returned from break, another manager yelled at the claimant in front of both customers and coworkers for discussing the hot conditions in the store with the customer, and then told her to go home. The claimant decided not to return to her job due to these incidents. Since the claimant was both physically assaulted by her supervisor and then yelled at by another manager in front of coworkers and customers, she had good cause connected with the work to quit. Modify the AT, valid claim, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
We should affirm the AT decision. First, I agree that the claim is valid. Concerning the job separation, although the claimant alleged serious workplace concerns, she did not report her concerns to the employer's HR department, nor to applicable law enforcement personnel. Moreover, after the separation, once the employer became aware of the claimant's assertions through statements provided to the commission, the employer engaged in an internal review which failed to substantiate any of the claimant's allegations. Since the claimant quit without providing the employer an opportunity to remedy her concerns, her separation was voluntary and without good cause connected with the work. As such, we should affirm the AT decision, valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. And that was the last unemployment insurance claim pulled for additional discussion on docket 24. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 24.
I'll move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 24.
I second the motion, except for those cases which I am dissenting, as reflected on UI short form dissent list for docket 24.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases of which I am dissenting as reflected in UI short form dissent list for docket 24.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you. Continuing with docket 25.
Case number 2681686, Commissioner Esparza.
We should modify the AT decision. I don't contest that the claimant established good cause for missing the AT hearing. Concerning the job separation, the claimant quit alleging health-related concerns. Although the claimant was advised to consult with the employer's HR department about possible accommodations, the claimant resigned without allowing the employer to remedy his needs. Finally, since the claimant was not advised by a physician to quit prior to the job separation, we should find that the claimant's separation was voluntary and without good cause connected with the work. As such, we should modify the AT decision. The claimant established good cause for missing the AT hearing, voluntary leaving, overpayment.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant had good cause for his failure to appear at AT1, as a hearing was held more than 3 years after the claimant's timely appeal. Regarding the job separation, the claimant took this job because he did not realize that he would have to stand the entire time that he was working. After a couple of days, the claimant found that he could not perform the physical requirements of the job and asked for a transfer to a different department where he did not have to stand continuously, but was told that he would have to resign and reapply. The claimant submitted medical documentation showing that he was unable to work but cannot stand continuously for more than 1 hour. Therefore, the evidence established that the claimant had good cause connected with the work for quitting due to his medically verifiable illness. Reverse the AT, claimant established good cause for AT1, no voluntary leaving, no overpayment.
Good cause, no voluntary leaving, no overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3234211, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision is not supportable. Although the claimant could not recall why she missed the AT1 hearing, This was at least in part because the AT2 hearing was not scheduled until 14 months after the AT1. Therefore, the claimant should be granted good cause due to the extreme delays in scheduling the hearing. Similarly, timeliness sanctions should not apply because TWC did not issue the determination in this case until 5 months after the claimant's PUA claim had ended. Furthermore, the determinations were issued based on a conclusion that the claimant failed to provide proof of employment to justify her PUA claim. However, prior to the proof of employment notice being sent, the claimant had already submitted proof of her employment for 2019 and 2020 as part of her appeal in case number 2961712, which resulted in the AT issuing a decision holding the claimant eligible for PUA benefits. Since the commission records show that the claimant had already submitted the required proof of employment to the TWC prior to any of the issues in this case, she was entitled to the PUA benefits that she received and should not be unjustly punished due to the procedural errors and delays all occurring after her PUA claim ended. Reverse the AT, claimant had good cause for AT1, timely claimant appeal, PUA eligible beginning 12/27/20, no overpayment, void waiver.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant had good cause to miss an appeal hearing that was based on a void PUA ineligibility determination. The claimant's late appeal should be considered timely because the underlying determinations were void. The determination holding the claimant ineligible for PUA benefits beginning December 27th, 2020 was void because she had already submitted the required documentation for her continued PA claim before the request for documentation was even sent. TWC was in actual receipt of the documentation of employment within the time required under federal law, and so she was at all times eligible for PUA. For the same reasons, the overpayment and waiver denial determinations were void. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision. The claimant had good cause to miss the first hearing, timely appeal. The claimant was eligible for PUA beginning December 27th of 2020. Void the determinations relating to the PUI ineligibility, overpayment, and waiver of the overpayment. There's a lot going on there.
I agree. I concur with Commissioner Esparza.
So the majority vote is that the underlying determinations were void. And all of the relevant procedural issues ruled in the claimant's favor because the underlying determinations were void.
I'll agree with both the chair and Commissioner Esparza.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 3678364, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant consistently testified that she made several attempts to call in prior to the AT1 hearings at 1:15 p.m. start time, but kept getting fax noises when calling the 1-800 number. She was eventually able to register online by 1:19 p.m. Since the claimant made several attempts to call in prior to the hearing start time, and since she was only a few minutes late in registering, good cause should be granted and the case resubmitted for merits testimony. Reverse the AT, claimant established good cause for AT1, resubmit.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant gave conflicting testimony about her attempts to register for the appeal hearing that was unpersuasive to establish good cause for her non-appearance. As to the job separation, the weight of the available evidence established that the claimant mismanaged her position of employment by failing to attend scheduled work. Such activity was misconduct connected with work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for her non-appearance, therefore misconduct and no chargeback.
Good cause, resubmit.
We will resubmit the case.
Case number 36995562, Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the AT decision. Claimant was terminated for mismanaging company time. Despite prior warnings regarding inappropriate cell phone usage, the claimant was observed watching a movie on her phone during work hours. Consequently, the assertion that the claimant was terminated due to an inability to meet performance standards lacks merit. Since the claimant's unsatisfactory job performance was a direct result of her failure to adhere to reasonable work rules, we should reverse the AT decision misconduct.
The AT decision is supportable. The employer discharged the claimant for continued performance issues during her probationary period of employment. The employer failed to establish that the claimant was ever able to meet their performance expectations during her short period of employment, and an inability to ever meet the employer's standards does not constitute misconduct. Therefore, the claimant's separation was for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct.
No misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3718966, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. After working for the employer for over 3 years with no evidence of performance issues, the claimant was promoted to a new position. Then, after only a few months, the claimant began receiving write-ups for failing to meet the employer's performance expectations. The claimant was ultimately discharged due to an inability to make a store ready for business within the time frame that she was given. The employer presented no evidence that the claimant was ever able to meet their performance expectations after she was promoted, and therefore, the weight of the evidence provided established that the claimant's performance issues demonstrated an inability to meet the employer's expectations in her new role and not misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant was discharged because she failed to make a store ready for business during the reasonable time allotted. Because the claimant had received prior warnings for similar performance issues, she was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
Misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir. And that is the last unemployment insurance case pulled for additional discussion on docket 25. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 25.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 25.
I second the motion, except for those cases which I am dissenting as reflected on UI short form dissent list for docket 25.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I am dissenting as reflecting the UI short form dissent list for docket 25.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a short recess.
Sorry.
Pretty good. That's what they're trying to tell you. He got so bad. He took it.
Random.
This next part's gonna be better than the one. And we're back. For agenda item 9, statewide initiatives. Chris is walking serious. This is gonna be serious.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cerner. For the record, Chris Nelson, Chief Financial Officer. This morning, you have a packet before you, including the statewide initiatives for the 2026 operating budget. I'll give you a brief background of where we are in the process. So last September, the commission approved the legislative appropriation request to submit to LBB for inclusion in our general appropriations request. The commission approved that, went through the legislative process. We now have basically an approved General Appropriations Act. But also after September 3rd, the commission had a work session to approve additional statewide initiative programs after we submitted the LAR. So what you have before you is a document that encompasses what you approved last year, either in last summer during a similar session as this, or in the follow-up work session in September. And then in this case of childcare, you have additional documentation on any increases or decreases in the childcare program, including rescinding any programs or increasing any amounts or decreasing any amounts. One thing to note, as the general layout is very similar to what we've done before. You have the yellow highlighted for your commission reserve balance. For WIOA, just to make sure you're aware, applies to TANF as well, but specifically with WIOA, you have to add the 2.2 million available in the 2026 operating budget plus the 6.9 in the 25. So staff have not, because the year's not over, haven't UB'd that amount forward to 2026. So your operating budget amount for statewide initiatives, because I seriously doubt anything's going to get approved in the contract before August 31st, is 9.2 million for WIOA. That concludes my comments, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
No, not right now.
All right, I think our game plan is to push a decision on all this to the work session, which is scheduled for Monday, which is coming up. I think it looks like about $1 million in TANF, about 9 million in WIOA. Is that about right?
9.2 million.
And that's assuming we take all of staff's recommendations as they're presented. I think all of that is open for discussion though. Then commissioners have traditionally brought any new initiatives or initiatives that they'd like to consider at the work session. I have 3. I brought them today. I'm going to distribute them so I can get these into the meeting record. Though obviously we'll come back up and discuss them in any kind of detail on Monday. I don't intend to take action before Monday. I just want you guys to have them before we roll up in there on Monday so you can see kind of what I'm thinking about. If you have ideas that you're ready to present today, I'd like to do that. Let me distribute these to you guys. There are 3 here. The first one is a proposal to help senior military leaders. These are sort of upper level officers as they transition to civilian employment. This would deal with internships, mentoring with high level civilian leaders, business outreach. I had a really good conversation with some senior officers at Joint Base San Antonio. I did consult with Bob Gear on this, so I have included our military experts here at the commission in our discussion. And in full disclosure, Bob helped me write the paper. That's why there's big words in here. So if you have questions, you can certainly talk to Bob. Commissioners, we can't talk about it till Monday, but I'm happy to discuss this Monday as well. My second one, this is, I've been hearing about this a lot as I've been out and about. I'm sure you hear about a lot of things too. This is late stage career shifters. These are people who are trying to make a career change kind of midway through their career. They're not really in a position to go back to school. I would like to discuss additional tools for mid or late career shifters. And this is mostly about career exploration. This is mostly about awareness. This may involve some internships as well. And then the last one is a rotating industry internship. Plainly put, and I remember when my own kids did this, they roll them up 8th grade and tell them they got to pick their major for high school, which is ridiculous. And I mean, if anybody in here feels like you were a better decision maker at 14 than you are today, let's talk after the meeting, because I would love to talk to you about that. And if any of you feel like you were a better decision maker at 17 than you are today, I'd like to talk about that too. I think one of the ways we can really help Texas's school kids is to really kind of develop an internship program that lets them do multiple career explorations through internships throughout their high school career. Let's don't lock them into one thing. Let's give them the opportunity to really see for themselves what all these different jobs do. I think we can do this through CT. I think there's a lot of ways we can do this. I think we probably just need to come up with the best way. So those are my 3 concepts. These will come back up Monday for additional discussion, but just to make that discussion more productive on Monday, I wanted to lay those out today. Commissioner Trevino, were you thinking about anything that you might want to lay out today? And certainly we can do this again on Monday as well.
Yes, I got a couple of them that I'd like to hand out today and then go there. And for Chris, you said 9 million-ish?
In WIOA, there's no ish.
Oh, there's
If
no
you,
ish,
if you,
okay.
Bam.
doesn't exist in the accounting vocabulary.
Thank you. Thank you.
9.2 million is,
Got it.
if you want the exact number, it's.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, the first one that I wanted to point out was emerging industry workforce development program dealing with nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is an important area of growth for our workforce. We must ensure that we provide the necessary skills and training to maximize the potential of this vital industry, which will serve the workers of our state by providing new jobs with high earning potential. Senate Bill 1535 recognizes this reality and has directed us to create, in collaboration with the Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative and the Public Utility Commission, an advanced nuclear energy workforce development program. While no fundings were approved for this program, I would like to propose a pilot program to identify ways in which we can support workforce development in this area. I'm requesting that we use 1.5 million in WIOA statewide funds to create this pilot program, which will work to establish that talent pipeline for this industry. The second one is in reference to rural workforce development. This commission has recognized the challenges of rural communities that they face with workforce development. Rural school districts and community colleges often lack the resources to address these issues to properly develop the needed workforce. Senate Bill 2448 directed the creation of a workforce development grant program to provide grants to nonprofit organizations that will provide technical assistance and support rural colleges and school districts, but did not appropriate any funds for this program and requires formal rulemaking prior to the implementation. I believe that engaging in an eligible public or private research institution to develop a pilot program to assist these rural community colleges and school districts with grant applications, facility upgrades, partnership development, and aligning education with employers, what the employer needs, will help us identify skill gaps, expand training programs, and facilitate private partnerships. And I'm requesting $1 million in WIOA funds to create this pilot program. Those are the 2 that I wanted to present today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sparser.
Yeah, just one. Mine is in the area of parent educator child care, a pilot program that would allow qualified parents to receive child care financial assistance while also volunteering as caregiving staff at eligible CCS providers where their child attends. And I'd like to thank Reagan and Allison for their help in working out some of the details. And we would need to continue to work out this plan. Getting right to the money, we're asking for 4.7 million in this pilot program, but it's utilizing funds that are made available through the agency staff proposed discontinuation of the Child Care Investment Partnerships Program in fiscal year 26. So we'd like to look at a little bit more about what that money is and if we can allocate or rededicate that money. So to not to impact that 9.2 two.
Yeah, ish.
I continue to be a proponent of this model. I think it's a creative model that I've been able to view in action. And I hope to see that a pilot program in other parts of the state would benefit to those communities in that location. Again, like I said, I'd like to have that discussion to talk about, the pros and cons. This has kind of been worked in the past. I don't feel that it's been worked in this type of way to where we're actually training fully dedicated caregivers. Therefore, somebody volunteers a day, and then they get a subsidy or a scholarship for the rest of the week. But I mean, we're basically training them that if they wanted to be full-time child caregivers, they'll have the training and the ability to do so. So there's my proposal.
All right, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to table all this. We're going to bring it back Monday in its entirety. Everything will be eligible for discussion on Monday. All staff proposals, all staff recommendations, our recommendations. We just got to get the dollar amounts right. Childcare discussion on that day as well. So this will include all AEL, all WIOA, all TANF, everything that's in the whole entire 7-volume set of materials that they gave us preparing for this. We'll just talk about it all at one time. And also, I would encourage us as commissioners, and I've been reading this year with a much more critical eye. I think part of our responsibility as commissioners is understanding things we've done and trying to understand if they continue to be effective. So I think that's part of the discussion on Monday. And I don't think we should shy away from discussing making changes to things that we're doing, especially if we think that can improve it. And so I anticipate all of this will be wrapped up on any one discussion. Everybody
I
good?
agree.
Chris,
Yep.
good?
I have one question,
Yes, sir.
Chairman. Just administratively, do these proposals have to be submitted like today in this, or can they be adjusted just as long as they're posted?
Well, really, what we've entered on the record today,
Advance
we-
warning.
this is just, I think, an opportunity for us to understand. It's the only venue that we really have for us to know what each other
Okay.
are thinking. If you think of more ideas, supplemental ideas, obviously that'll come out in the discussion on Monday. I think that's part of what that discussion is. And
Okay.
we may on Monday get into a discussion and invent a whole new thing that none of us have even actually thought of before, and that we can do that too.
Okay.
Because a work session is the same kind of open meeting as a commission meeting. So we can do everything that we can do in a regular commission meeting.
Okay, thanks, Chairman.
All right.
Yep.
Let's see. I
Thank
don't
you.
think there's a legislative report today. There's somebody sitting in the legislative report chair, but she does not appear as if she's prepared to give a legislative report in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Now she's looking at me like she doesn't like me very much for having said that. So Mr. Cern, I'll turn it over to you for the executive director's report.
One quick report delivered by Eric on our recent South Texas disaster unemployment.
Hey, good morning. Eric Cullen with the Unemployment Insurance Division. I have an update on declared disaster 4871 for the severe storms and flooding that occurred between March 26 and March 28, 2025. On May 21st, 2025, federal disaster aid was authorized for individual assistance, which included disaster unemployment assistance or DUA benefits. The declared counties for individual assistance include Cameron, Hidalgo, Starr, and Willacy. The deadline to apply for DUA benefits is July 21st, 2025, and the last payable week is the week ending November 22nd, 2025. As of this morning, customers have submitted 39 DUA claims, and that completes my update.
Comments or questions?
None here.
None, Chairman.
All right, thank you very much.
Nothing else, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cern. Is there any other order of business come before the commission?
No.
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 Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. We're adjourned.